Hi. Hi everyone. My name is Folashade Balogun, and I am an early childhood educator. I'm also a shadow work therapist and the founder of this small jewelry company called By Fola, where I make jewelry and stuff by hand. Fun fact about me. I really was supposed to think about this before, and I did. I thought about it, and what I came up with was that I sometimes enjoy ketchup on curry gravy and white rice. Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome once again to Good News Jamaica's Hidden Gems. Today we have with us here the wonderful, awesome, gifted Folashade. Balogun.
Not much. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for taking the time to come and sit with us in this awesome space and highlighting all this awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Before we actually delve into the interview, I want to ask you this. What is one Jamaican proverb that stands out to you and why?
Wow. Okay. I feel like because my upbringing was mixed with both African and Jamaican proverbs, and they cross over.
Okay, so give me one of each.
Okay. Be careful when a naked man gives you a shirt, and that's an African proverb.
Okay. So what's the story behind that?
The story behind that is you can't give what you don't have. And even with the best of intentions, you still can't give what you don't have. And if you're attempting to do so, it must mean that you're either stealing, or whatever it is that you're giving, it doesn't have the value it should have because you don't have it.
Don't have it to give. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So that's the African one.
Yes.
So what's the Jamaican one?
The Jamaican. What's the Jamaican proverb? I mean, on the spot now, I really can only think of Chicken Mary. Chicken Mary out here.
All right. So why that one?
Why that one? I think growing up, I feel like I got into a decent amount of what you'd call trouble. Mm-hmm. And it's something my mother would say to me often. It's something adults around me would also say often. And I feel like they said it because in their minds, I didn't have a care in the world and I wasn't aware of what was happening around me. And I feel like in ways I was, but I enjoyed getting close to the things that were at that time perceived as harmful. Yeah.
All right, cool. So now we're here today, and you are the founder of By Fola,
yes.
Right? So tell me a little bit about By Fola.
Well, By Fola is me. By Fola is an amalgamation of the things I love to do, or some of the things I love to do. I've been making jewelry ever since I can remember, largely for myself. I feel like just growing up, I liked having things around my hands, I liked having things around my neck, and so that's where just working with my hands was something I enjoyed, and so that's where that started. But as I got older and I was able to, I guess, become better at it, I had friends around me who would encourage me and say, you know, them something here look good. Like you can't sell them something. And at the time, I really wasn't interested in that, especially because when I came into contact with semi-precious stones, it was a very intentional period in my life, and I feel like connecting with nature in that way gave me something that was so immense. At that time, I really just wanted to be giving them away. Okay. Right, but that really is where that started.
Okay. Obviously you mentioned just now coming in contact with nature. For me, like when I'm yearning for that peace, I turn to nature.
All the time. So all the time. Like even though we're outside right now, I really made an effort to bring more outside to the outside. You feel me?
Because it adds value to that piece. Yeah. All right. So outside of the jewelry, you're also a shadow therapist, right?
A shadow work therapist.
Shadow work therapist. So tell us a little bit more about that, and how did you actually get into doing that?
Wow. Okay. Well, like I was sharing with you before we started here, any of the things that I implement in the spaces that I create for healing are things that I've done with myself, things that I've done on myself, things that I've tried and things that have worked. And I understand that the same thing won't work for everyone.
Definitely.
But there's a way in which when I come into contact with you, we'll be able to adjust to what your needs are in that moment. But so formally, I'm trained as an early childhood educator, and so I taught in a prep school classroom, early childhood classroom, for the greater part of 7 years.
When it started?
I was about 21.
Okay.
I was about 21, so I came right out of school. Yeah. I came right straight from high school. I didn't even go to upper six. I went to Shortwood Teachers College. I went to UWI. I really just went school, work. And that in itself was stressful for me because I spent a lot of my early years in church and very intensely involved in church. And I think a lot of that was very consuming for me. And so I felt like I needed time. Anyway, I'm digressing. Point is, I started teaching when I was 21 and I was teaching children. And that in itself was extremely rewarding. And I found it to also be a very spiritual experience. Every year I would come in contact with at least one child who I feel like we'd have a struggle in the classroom. And in the year in review, I'm able to see how the struggle I was having with that child it matched the struggle I was having with myself. And so over time, I became extremely observant of my environment, of the things around me, of the people around me, of the experiences I was having, how I was participating in that, and I was able to undo a significant amount of the damage that comes just through interacting in life and in other harmful spaces. And so when I left the classroom, I didn't necessarily want to stop teaching, but I wanted to come closer. I really love people. I love children, but on a whole, I love people. I love working with people, and I found that the classroom there was still some amount of distance between me and the kind of help I feel like I'm able to give, the kind of love I feel like I'm able to give, and the kind of constructive assistance I'm able to lend to the people around me. I felt like there was still some distance between me and that in the classroom, and so I left that space in search of a way to come closer
and to give more.
Yes. And during that time, I also obviously, of course, connected with myself very deeply, because my experiences in church, especially given to the fact that my relationship with God and with church in church intensified when my father passed at around 10. And so at that time, like I was sharing with you earlier, I was actively looking for something. And so I wasn't just nonchalantly in church because my parents brought me and I have to be there. I wanted to be there because I was in need of something. And I found that over and over, my openness was sincere, it was continuous, and I found that I was repeatedly being met with people who were intentionally and unintentionally abusing that. People who were adding salt to a wound, making the damage worse. And I in no way want to take away from the powerful blessing that the church community was for me, because even though there are many things in that space I don't necessarily agree with, and that's largely and as a matter of fact entirely because of my experience, it was still my initiation into an actual relationship with God. It was still the place in which I was able to realize that there is God in me, and the God that is in me is in everyone else, and we're able to come into contact with that Godness, with that God space on our own. And my coming away from the church was a coming into that awareness, and coming into it for myself, and coming into it in a way that I could share it with others. Because like I said, in the church space, I was in need of something, in desperate need of something, and I was met very often with abuse, with judgment, with shame, with ridicule, and it was damaging my mental health. At the time, the time at which I left the classroom, I remember close to maybe the last term, and this isn't something that anyone I was working with would have known except maybe my senior teacher at the time. I was in the middle of a lesson, and I couldn't talk anymore. I just inhaled, I couldn't talk anymore. I left the classroom and I had a version of a breakdown, at the time, coping with everything that was happening in the church space, coping with growing into an adult, because even though I'm an adult in the eyes of the children, and I'm an adult legally, I'm 21. I've pretty much just left my parents' house, and so there's so home and that safe space, and so there's so many things I would now be freshly exposed to, in addition to all the trauma that I would have been dealing with before. And so my coming away from the church space, like I said, was because I found that the pain that I felt, the damage that I felt, the shame I felt, those things were intensifying in the presence of things that were being proclaimed to facilitate healing. I said something is wrong here, and like I said before, I'm not at all bashing the church. I'm not trying to remove the credit where credit is due. Definitely. But I think a big part of what inspired me to be here in this way, to be holding space for people and healing in this way, is because a lot of what is projected is an image, and the things that are being said aren't actually happening, and the people are in actual need of actual help.
Exactly.
You know, and so that was what brought me into this space. I came into contact, I think about 5 or 6 years ago now. I came into contact with a friend, a very good friend of mine, one of my best friends actually. Her name is Nicole Mars, but on Instagram her name is Nicole Ray. Okay. And we're very close in age, and she, you know, like me, I was initiated through church, had a lot of very tumultuous spiritual experiences, and I feel too, my spiritual experience is also exacerbated by the fact that while my mother is from Jamaica, my father is from Nigeria, and I'm very much connected to both lineages, and ancestry has become a big part in my life. I mean, it always is, but there's a way that I haven't been able to avoid noticing it. And so I came into contact with this person through Instagram originally, and I reached out to her because at the time she had gotten to the point in her journey where she wanted to share what gifts she had in order to help others heal. Okay. And she was offering what she called at the time eye readings, and so you would send her a photo of your eyes, you're looking directly into the camera, and she would, whatever comes to her, she would share with you, and generally in the scope of things that she could share are things that may have happened to you years ago or in a past life, something that's happening to you presently that you're not aware of.
So hold on, so hold on. So I'm asking this, right? So now, let's say I'm walking and she's in front of me and she said me, she can just look into my eyes and just read me?
I want to say yes and no. Okay. Yes, because that is a gift that she has. But when you're gifted in that way, whether you're gifted in that way or not, operating with boundaries is important. Okay. And so even my ability to perceive what is happening with someone in their life, in their past, through conversation is something I have to rein in. I can't just be in the street willy-nilly pulling people's business out of them, because I remember when my gifts were accelerating as I was doing work on myself. Some of the things that I found happening were in my interpersonal relationships. I am angry, I'm incensed, and I'm cussing the person out about something that they're not even aware of yet, but I have perceived it because of my interaction with them. That kind of thing isn't fair, because someone needs to come into a thing in their own time. Exactly. Yeah. Right. And I think what happened in the church spaces too is that very often some of these people intend to help, and in the space where they're invoking spirit in an attempt to now pray for you and so on, they do perceive things, but there's some things that you're not meant to hear in that time. Is like if you're afraid of spiders, and I know that there's a big spider under that chair, and I want to assist you in getting out of here safely, I'm not going to tell you that there's a spider there, because you're going to freak out, possibly flick you're not going to be okay. I'd have you leave and then talk to you. So I feel like there was a lot of misuse of power and misuse of gifts in the Christian space, and that led to severe harm. I came into contact with pastors who were not just laying hands on me, but striking me to the floor. People who were removing clothes, burning articles of clothes, things that would leave you in paranoia for days. A lot of the people that I've worked with have by the time they get to me, they've experienced 2, 3, 4 mental breakdowns because they're in spaces where people are spewing judgment, are spewing
spaces.
Yes, spaces that are supposed to be safe are demonizing you in at a time when you need love, because what is manifesting now is the result of pain, is the result of trauma that entered this person's body that didn't have an opportunity to be fully expressed. And so in the services that I provide, I'm able to facilitate a space where you're able to, in those 2 hours, get to the core of what is really happening with you, the core of why some of your cycles operate in the way that they do, and then we're able to work through things that will be helpful specifically for you.
All right, so you just mentioned that the session lasts for 2 hours. So how many sessions is actually recommended for someone that needs it?
Okay, so the thing about, there's so many different types of therapy, and I didn't look into that until I started offering this service in an official way. But shadow, at least the way in which I'm offering it operates, my aim, my deepest aim is to bring you into a space of awareness, because we all have what we call blind spots. We all have blind spots, and we created these blind spots ourselves in the first place because something harmful happened to us that we're now trying to protect ourselves from. I'm not you, and so as we're talking, your blind spots won't be blind to me. And so the purpose of the space that I'm creating is to reveal what is in your blind spots to you in a way that you're able to meet yourself with compassion, because it's very easy for us to judge ourselves in the ways that the people around us have been judging us, judge ourselves in the ways in which we're programmed to judge ourselves, in the ways in which we differ from the things that society considers normal, etc., etc. And so in that space, we're looking very closely and very intimately at the things that, the underlying thing that affects you. And in that time where there's a guided meditation at the end that can last anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. And in that space, you're able to connect with yourself on a deeper level, in a more intentional way. A lot of this space is about intention and awareness. And so ideally, I would say 1. I have been in situations, however, where I am able to offer support, because everyone's case is different. I've had a client who I've seen 4 times because of the extent of her trauma and the difficulty she had opening up and the kind of support that she needed. I'm not at all also saying that every other type of therapy doesn't work, because like I said, there are different forms of therapy and different things work for different people. There are some people who will need the kind of long-term support that comes with going into a therapist 1 hour every week, 1 week for the month, as opposed to like a 1 session like this. No, and so I wouldn't off the bat suggest 1 or 10. I would have to speak to the person first.
On each situation.
Right, and I remember too, one of the things that happened during my journey was that the minute I found someone who was able to see me, to witness me, to hear me, I wanted to cling to them. And that's a big part of why I am operating in the way that I'm operating, which is, I work with you 1 time, and if we need support, we can talk about that along the way. But personally, I found myself getting overly attached to the people that were helping me, because it's very easy to do that. Definitely. I mean, you watch TV, these things happen, and so I'm so focused on communicating healing to people, and I personally have found that my most powerful encounters have been one-off encounters with strangers who are telling me things that they would have no way of knowing. And so for that reason, I've tried to keep it brief, but I have been in situations where I've supported someone 3-4 sessions. Some sessions are 2 hours. You can add time if you'd like. I've done a session as long as 4 hours. But it just depends on what you need.
So my question to you, you're constantly pouring into all these different individuals, right?
Yeah.
What about you? Like, what about Fola? Like, I'm sure that it might get overwhelming at times. So, like, how do you pour also into yourself? after pouring into so many different individuals?
Yeah,
is that possible?
It's possible, and not only is it possible, I've found that it's something that I have to make a priority. I have to make it a priority because, like I said earlier, a naked man cannot offer someone else a shirt. And if I am not in a position where I am clothed fully in the thing that I'm offering, I cannot offer it. And I remember when I just started offering this service officially, I was extremely excited. I was doing 5-6 sessions in a day, 2 hours, 6 hours, back to back, go. And I remember doing that. I remember doing that for a week. And by the end of it, I was
drained.
My stiff out. I literally couldn't move, and I had to bring myself to Blue Lagoon in Portland. And I just got a life jacket and jumped off. Nature is very important to me. Nature has always been very important to me because, like I said, when I moved away from the church space in an attempt to connect with God in a way that felt more tangible, in a way that was moving things around in my life, nature was very instrumental in that.
What's closer to God than nature?
And I've had the most powerful experiences in that space. One of the things that I did was I would go on trips alone often. I would find rivers in a corner somewhere, go to the beach alone, submerge myself in the water alone, intentionally stay there. So I never, my relationship with God never stopped, and I feel like it's easy to look at me and probably assume that it has. But my relationship with God has never been more powerful than it is now, and I'm extremely and eternally grateful to be able to share with others in this way. And so what I do to pour into myself is, one, I make sure I don't have too many calls in a day. And every month, every week, there is, I keep nature around me as much as possible, but I also intentionally go out and spend time to empty myself.
Definitely.
I also, over the course of my own life experience, I've had several experiences that have taught me how to enforce boundaries, how to withdraw my energy, how to separate my energy from someone else's own. Because very initially, I entered this space taking on, of course, what in an attempt to help and be present. And taking it on in such a way that sometimes, as I'm guiding you through the meditation, I'm seeing what you're seeing, and I would have no way of knowing that until in the conversations after some of the people as I'm sharing with them what I saw, they saw the same thing. And we don't always see things, but it's just what I'm pointing to is how present I become, and that kind of thing can wear on you.
Definitely.
And so, I've learned how to enforce boundaries efficiently. I make sure I'm not overworking myself, because I'm now offering two businesses, it's two services, it's two very intentional things I'm giving myself and my energy to. And so I make sure I spend time in nature. I sleep when I need to. I do things that make me feel good, that make me feel fulfilled, that have me feeling close to God and close to self. And I'm able to pour as much and as often as I need to.
Alright, cool. So before we wrap up, tell me a little bit more about these pieces and how people can actually get in contact with you to purchase these pieces.
Well, right now I'm only operating through Instagram. My handle is at full stop Fola _, so it's by Fola, but there's a full stop and an underscore. And on Instagram you can get in touch with me. Just send me a DM. We can have a conversation there. I make custom pieces as well. Some of the pieces that you're seeing here now will be available on Saturday at the Plant and Art Market at 22 Jerk in Barbican. This is the second time I'm popping up, but outside of that I don't have a physical location per se. I facilitate drop-offs. Just get in touch with me on Instagram and we can talk from there. Stuff that I do is there as well.
And what are the prices like though?
It depends on what you're getting from me, but that prices range from anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, $6,000. It depends on, because some people also bring stones for me to wrap, so it depends on it depends on
so
what
guys, affordable and them look good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so make sure you guys reach out and support and listen to me. Your gift.
Thank you so much.
The gift that needs to keep on giving. This is something like it's just amazing just hearing you speak with so much passion and purpose. You know what I mean? And what you're doing is absolutely needed. Because people need healing.
Absolutely. And it's I'm not just creating a space where people, I don't want to create a space where people are dependent on me. I want you to leave that space empowered, knowing that healing is something that that is a birthright, something that you can come into contact with once you're ready. More than anything, I want to be able to work with people who maybe having mental health struggles, people who are rehabilitating possibly from trauma, from excessive drug use, from mental health breakdowns, people who may have struggled through traumatic spiritual experiences in the church, something that I don't know if you've ever come into contact with, a kind of ministry called deliverance ministry, where people are laying hands on you and anointing you with olive oil. The kind of shock that administers to the body is not something that I feel the church space is equipped enough to handle. It's something that I've definitely experienced firsthand, and I would love more than anything to offer support to people who are having those kinds of experiences, people who are adjacent to people who are having those experiences and may need help.
Okay.
You know, I'm open to working with, you know, just individuals. I've had like maybe 1 or 2 in-person sessions since I've been back, but you know.
So as far as the counseling sessions, they can reach out to you via Instagram also?
Absolutely. So right now I use Squarespace, and there's a link to the Squarespace on my personal page.
And what's your personal page? My
personal page is just at Folashade. It's spelled Folashade. Okay. With an underscore. There's a link in my bio to my Acuity, and in that space you're able to see what services I have available, and then from there book an appointment, get in touch with me, and so on. My email address is there, so we can correspond before consultations are free.
Okay.
I just correspond with you via email. Right. Yeah, I come to people in person as well. I'm open to any kind of work situation. Right now, I mean, okay, so I've been doing this because I started during the pandemic. My sessions have largely been through Zoom, outside of maybe the 2 where I met someone in Portland, and I've, you know, since I've been back in Jamaica. But what I'd like to do is edit what I have available now, because I was living in Mexico for a while. I was moving up and down. Okay. And so now that I'm back home and wanting to share with the community at home specifically in this way, I'm going to update the services that I offer so that there are specific slots and sections for locals, so that it's accessible. Okay. Because naturally I've been, you know, working with people from all over the world, and so I want to center it on the community here in Jamaica, all the communities that exist here, and make it something that's accessible to people. Yeah.
Fola.
Yeah.
Blessings.
Andre, right, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much for taking the time out and sharing so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just want to say, keep up the good work, and
thank you,
I might have to check you for those sessions too.
Yeah, please. Please, I'd be glad to.
All right. Guys, thank you once more for tuning in for another awesome interview. Stay tuned and stay blessed. Peace.
Thank you for checking us out on Good News Jamaica TV for content that informs, inspires, and transforms. Please like, share, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more positive Jamaica content. Walk good,